Good evening, Metropolis Tamil Sangam friends and family. Hope you are doing well today. And we are almost towards the weekend. Nowadays, we wonder which is a working day and which is a weekend because of we are staying at home. We all are quarantined. So we thought, bringing in experts to take care of our health is one of the value added to our members. So today we have a special guest, Dr. Mittal, who is going to help us to understand how we have to stay healthy, mentally motivated as well. And so before we jump into it, so I wanted to request you all that Metropolis Tamil Sangam is doing a fundraiser. So please feel free to support. This is for our first responders. You may donate as you wish, $25, $50, $100, whatever you want. You may donate. We are doing it for Irving Police Department, Portland Memorial Hospital, Dallas Veteran Affairs Medical Center, and Tamil Task various group members in Tamil Nadu as well. So please show your support, and you can get this link from our website and also in our Facebook as well. So let me introduce Dr. Mittal officially. So Dr. Mittal is the founder and medical director of Radiant Health, Weight Loss and Wellness in Frisco, Texas. As an Internist and Diplomate of Board of Obesity Medicine, she provides medical weight management, diabetes care, as well as preventive health service in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Dr. Mittal, please welcome to our show, and I would like to request you to give a quick introduction for our members.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Like Mr. Kumar said, I'm Dr. Richa Mittal. I'm a board-certified internal medicine doctor and also board-certified in obesity medicine. I have my own practice, like he mentioned, here in Frisco. And I have a very personal passion for preventative health and wellness. And as part of my practice, I get to help people reverse chronic medical conditions and work on root cause of their medical issues, which often is metabolic and health problems. And I also have a blog, and I share wellness tips there as well as recipes I create in my kitchen. So I look forward to being able to speak with you today on giving you some tips on how to stay healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Mittal. And I've added all our profile and our Twitter tag and Instagram tag in our profile in the show profile. So feel free to follow her. I am following her. That is how I came to know about Dr. Mittal. And I saw a few of her posts, and she's very informative, short and crispy. So I thought definitely, we need to, bring her to our members. And thanks for accepting, Dr. Mittal. So now, this pandemic, things have changed a lot in our life. Last 60 to 75 days being changed. And, we all are undergoing a lot of stress mainly. We don't know what is going to happen in 2020, 2021, when this is going to end. So I would like to hear from your perspective, what you see, what is happening among your patients, or what are you seeing? What is your observations on what is going on with the people with this pandemic?
Yeah, so I think your assessment is spot on. Everybody's stressed. There's stress of, figuring out how to work from home. There's stress that the children are home and we're all becoming school teachers. There's stress about the uncertainty of when are we going to go back to work and school. And, there's just stress about, are we going to get sick? Are our loved ones going to get sick? How long do we have to stay away from our family, our friends? Human beings are social creatures, and it's very hard for us to, go through this. And so I think one of the things that I'm seeing is, a lot of stress, a lot of specifically in my patient population, probably a lot more stress eating. Mm-hmm. And, we're staying at home. We're all working from home. So there's a lot more mindless eating because we walk by the kitchen multiple times a day. I think people are just really worried and wanting to get back to some type of normal. It's been quite a few weeks now, and I think that's given us a chance now to adapt. And we must all look to find a new normal now, because this is unfortunately not something that's going to go away so fast. And so we have to find ways to live with it now.
Got it. I completely agree and understand that. So, if you want to, dissect your answers, I know you covered so much in your answers, right? If we can take one step at a time and say, let us talk about either a stress management or diet, whatever you would like to do, please, take one and let's dive deep into it.
Sure. So, I believe in multiple pillars of wellness, right? So, stress is one that's definitely contributing right now. Nutrition, movement, sleep, even medical issues, all of these different things make up our health, our wellness, right? So let's start with talking about stress. So,
Mhm.
stress is very common, and it's something that we were meant to be able to endure and adapt to in small doses. Of course, when there's continuous stress, that is not what we were meant to be, right? So, in the short term, when stress happens, our body is designed to be able to run away from the lion, right? So, we were in nature, the lion came, we saw it, and we had certain things happen. Our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up. We have that boost of adrenaline, and you start running, right? Your eyes dilate, that whole system kicks in. But the problem is when we're constantly facing the lion, constantly facing that stress, then that response that we're having actually is not physiologically healthy for us. It is in small doses, but not in continuous. So nowadays, even just in our modern lifestyle, let alone during a pandemic, we're having the stress of all those different things we just mentioned, and you're trying to balance it all. And what happens is that actually stress over time is obviously raising blood pressure, which is not good, raising your heart rate, actually increasing appetite. And we also release a hormone called cortisol when we have stress. And cortisol actually leads to weight gain and increase in hormones like insulin. And all those things can lead to further weight gain. And that has effects not only on our metabolism and our metabolic health, but even things like blood pressure, risk for heart disease. And so that's the reason why it's very important to identify stress and then ways to decrease it. So one, we just talked about the effects of stress on the body, but then we also have the effects of the stress on our choices. So when we are stressed out, we often will reach for comfort foods, right? And it's very easy to justify, oh, I had a really rough day. I deserve this, whatever I'm about to eat, piece of cake. And it's not that inherently the cake is so bad. I mean, occasionally we should enjoy and indulge. But when you're eating for that reason, it's very easy to fall into that trap. And actually, these foods, like the comfort foods we talk about, are very high in sugar and fat, and they make us feel good in the short term. Those stress hormones go down, the dopamine levels go up, and our brain, we get that reward sensation. And so one of the key things to work on is, number one, ways to reduce stress. And then number two, find other things that give you joy and give you that dopamine feel good feeling, right? So as far as stress management is concerned, in our Indian culture, there's a lot of things that are discussed. And these are things that I'm having my patients do in my practice. And so many people, now even in the Western world are employing these practices. And so things like yoga, things like breathing exercises, even staying connected right now during the pandemic with friends and family over, FaceTime or Zoom calls. And really don't let social distancing equal emotional distancing, right? Because we just said we need people, we need social interaction. And if there's ways to safely see people as you slowly venture out, then do so, but keep it to small groups, keep the distance, wear the mask to protect the other person. But, those are some ways to reduce stress, even taking a walk, exercise, Those are all ways, meditation, which kind of goes hand in hand with the breathing and yoga. I often with my patients will talk about something called box breathing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a technique that I can share with you. It's basically if you envisioned a box. And so you would be breathing in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold again for
Great.
4 seconds. But having that intention and recognizing, when I'm stressed, all these things are going to happen in my body. And to decrease the risk of all those conditions and heart disease and so many things, it's very useful. And there are studies to show that it can be helpful, especially in even people who have heart disease, to decrease their risk of further events, to really bring down the stress levels. And, we can't always control everything from the outside, right? We can't control the job stress. We can't control our spouse, our children. Some things you can do, but there's a limit. So we
Gotcha.
have to
Gotcha,
change
Dr.
our
Mittal.
response. And I think that it's really important to recognize it and do something about it. And then the other thing I was going to mention is because it does drive us to eat these foods that don't serve us in the long term and actually exacerbate the condition and situations, make sure you're taking care of your mental health from the standpoint of, finding ways to create joy and enjoy the things that you have gotten through this pandemic, right? There are some positives. People are spending more time with their families. They don't have to commute. That's been one thing that people have said to me, like, I'm so happy to not have my horrible commute anymore right now. So there are positives, and trying to focus on that is helpful.
Sure, Dr. Mittal. I think you answered in a very, very detailed way in a long answer. So what you're saying is, your stress is very dangerous.
Yes,
Stress, whether you are eating more or not, your stress will increase your weight. That is the very first thing I got from your answer, right? You may have a regular dietary food like what you had 60, 70 days ago, but still you may gain weight. So because that is because of stress. So that is a very first thing I think we have to keep in mind. The second one is, once as soon as you knew that your stress is causing you the weight gain, then you should able to balance your stress, right? When your body asks for that sweet flavored food, that means you should focus on something else, do something different to make you happy, whatever it is. Even sometimes, I take a break and watch a movie without any disturbance. I go stay focused, then I get refreshed, and then I come and do my routine job. So likewise, they have to identify what is their routine for them to take a break, and then go for it. And the formula I read in a blog that make a call your old friend, two friends that is a week, who never spoke for months. Give them a call and talk. That will totally change your day. That is, I read
yes.
one of the blog and I even practiced it. It worked very well for me. I call people, they are available now to answer. We don't have to be afraid whether they are in the middle of a meeting or anything. Evening, they are just waiting to take a break. So that is
That's right.
something we can practice. And I completely understand your answers, and that is a very valuable information. So dear members, and please free to share your questions and thoughts in our chat. you know so that will help us to stay dynamic. So they can, Dr. Mittal is available for answer any questions. So feel free to post your comments and thoughts in Facebook and YouTube comments. So Dr. Mittal, to go to the next stage of our conversation, let's talk about kids. I know parents are worried about kids. Parents, including me, worried about sending kids outside, whether they go play, because of this COVID-19 issues. So how a parent can effectively manage kids and make them to stay healthy?
That's a great question and a concern that's on all of our minds. One thing that I've learned just through watching my own children is that kids are very resilient, perhaps more than us adults, and we can learn from that. I think that trying to create some kind of normal routine in your home is a good place to start to keep children healthy. I think we need to be cognizant of things like how much time they're spending in front of their screens or on devices, so that they're not just kind of sitting around constantly, and it's not good for their health. It's not good for us to be sedentary and to be seated and not moving. And so I think that's, bring that to their awareness, and maybe do something as a family. Go take a walk, play a game outside. This is a great time to take out those puzzles and those board games and spend some quality family time together so that they're focused on something else. It's been really hard for our children to switch to completely remote schooling. They're missing their friends. I would even say check in with their mood and ask them, how are you feeling about everything, and give them that chance to share their concerns with you. As far as going out and seeing children or other kids, I think that's a very personal matter. My personal comfort level right now is to try to minimize contact. And we haven't ventured out to see friends yet as far as the kids go. But, as that slowly happens, I think we're going to have to keep in mind to, maintain distance, maintain good hand washing many times a day, telling them to avoid touching their eyes and nose. And, understanding that a lot of times our children might be okay, but they can transmit things to loved ones who are older or more vulnerable. So just to be careful with that. Yeah.
Is there any documentary for kids to watch, even for parents to watch, how to take care, Netflix or any documentary, if you think, you have to recommend? I think, feel free to share with us, Dr. Mittal, as you speak, help us to, be informed, as a parent, all we are trying to do is like protect our next generation, overcome this issue.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah, I would like to go, a little bit deep on, dieting. I know you told that, we will start for food and sugary items and everything. What is the food dietary restrictions you would recommend or follow during this scenario?
Yeah. So I never use the word diet because I think that we need to think of things as a lifestyle, because a diet gives it a little bit of a feeling of, okay, this is just something temporary, and then I'm going to go back to other things. And I think it's really important to think about what your lifestyle is and what you're wanting for your life, and then live accordingly. So, the things that, especially right now while sheltering at home, but even in general, we need to try to minimize added sugar. And I know that a lot of times people are aware of that. We all know, okay, the, Indian sweets, the cakes, the cookies, we shouldn't be eating too many of them. But even things like juice, I've seen a lot of times that people have juice in their home, or they're giving juice to their children and actually feeling like they're giving something healthy. But the better alternative is to actually eat real fruit, because the real fruit is going to have the fiber, and it's not going to cause that spike in your blood sugar the way that drinking a glass of juice will. So that's one thing, is cutting out excess forms of sugar. Typically is helpful for all of us. Recommendations are to limit added sugar to 25 grams a day. And if you ever kind of bother to journal it, or, a lot of times people are using these food journaling apps, it's actually really interesting to see how quickly that can add up. So, sugar is hidden in a lot of things. So anytime that you're reading or getting groceries, I recommend you read the food labels. So things like ketchup, spaghetti sauce, they have added sugar that you wouldn't think. Like, why are they adding sugar to that? Anything with high fructose corn syrup, any food that comes out of a box typically is going to be a processed food that has added sugar. So that's one of the main things that I would like to stress to you, is to try to minimize those things. Other things are that if you're going to be making food at home, or, getting food from outside, anytime you eat food that has a simple carbohydrate, meaning the fiber has been removed, that is problematic and long-term causes our blood sugar to go up, which raises our insulin level and which leads to fat storage. So when you're trying to improve your lifestyle, then one of the things you can do is actually switch out certain things that maybe you were used to eating pasta. switch to whole wheat pasta or switch to chickpea pasta. If you're having naan and that's made of all-purpose flour, switch to a whole grain type of flour that you're going to make your own roti. Avoiding frying foods, I think everyone kind of is aware of. But those are just some simple things that, simple changes. And one thing that I'm very passionate about is that we all need to be eating more vegetables. So, and right?
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
And
And
I
when
personally am vegetarian, so I get that sometimes we vegetarians think, oh, we're eating healthy, we're vegetarian, but actually, most people are not getting enough vegetables.
Gotcha. So while you are talking, I was thinking about, I think this is a time for parents and kids to play a game of let us go and find the calories, measure what is in each and every food they cook, okay, this is a calorie, so this is how they're consuming. If that is the game they are going to play, I think that is a good game for as a family to play, I guess.
That is a good game. Maybe practicing reading food labels. Also, maybe having, in my family, we've been doing a lot of my children love to cook. And I find it very useful if you engage your children. First of all, they're going to be getting off the video game, right? They get to spend time with you. You're their hero as their parent. And they love to cook and engage in the kitchen. And when they are participating in preparing the broccoli or the green beans or cauliflower, whatever they like, they're going to be more likely to eat it.
Yeah,
That's just the
absolutely.
way it is.
Absolutely. And dear members, and if you're watching and if you have any ideas and thoughts, feel free to suggest, and we'll be happy to share in our live stream, and it may reach to many people. And also feel free to comment on what you do. How do you manage the kids aggressiveness, or if they say bored and they try to eat, how you are balancing it. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I will be happy to share to this world. So Dr. Mittal, to go to the next stage of, I know many people are sitting in front of the computer and working, first of all, physically, we are not getting enough activities where we're supposed to. And more than that, sitting in front of the computer and working, what are all the problems they may possibly cause? I'm talking about, their neck pain, their back pain, I'm not sure that is even coming under your scope, but just I'm asking, what are all the steps they have to take if they're sitting in front of the computer for hours?
Yeah, no, you're right. And in a way, everything comes under my scope because,
Okay.
I'm looking at the whole person, right?
Okay.
So I do think that that's a problem. And there are many things that you can do. So number one is you can get a standing type of desk. There's things that you can actually order from Amazon, and it'll make your desk where you can set it on top of your sitting desk. You could stand at your kitchen island if you don't, want to do that. I've personally stacked my computer on top of a big box. Just did that. But anything you can do to stand instead of sit, that is helpful. If you do need to sit, then getting up frequently, like every hour, get up and walk and move, stretch. You can do neck exercises, like just, stretching exercises to get things moving. It's actually very harmful to our health to sit all day. Not only from the standpoint of, we'll gain weight, but actually being sedentary increases our risk for diabetes, for heart disease. So we need to be moving. And so, one of the things that I always talk about for myself and for my patients is your intention, right? If you have that mindfulness to be, am I moving enough, right? So same thing with eating, right? Did I give myself all the things I wanted to eat? Am I moving enough? So again, if you're sitting, you thought about it, stand for a little while. You're taking a phone call, pace while you're taking the phone call. Maybe you're cooking in the kitchen, do some squats. Nobody's watching you. And, again, it's a matter of, like you said, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain. Our body, when it's in that very unnatural hunched over position on the computer, it's not good long term, and it's going to cause problems down the line if you're not doing something about it now. They do have, lumbar support type of things that you can put on the back of your seat. But
Hmm.
I honestly find that if you just get up frequently and walk and move, or just stand while you work, if you're constantly changing your position, you'll avoid getting that strain, from just sitting in one
Gotcha.
position.
Gotcha. So, doctor, I think next question is I'm going to ask some tricky questions.
Okay.
One of my friend told that he used to have a lot of coffee, but he stopped. But
Hmm.
this pandemic made him to drink his coffee again. So I know, South Indian or Indian common, we used to have a lot of coffees and teas. Can you talk about, having a lot of coffees, coffee with a milk, without milk? Can you help us to understand, having a two cup of coffee a day is good, 2 cup of tea is a day good, or what is it all about this coffee and tea?
Sure. So coffee and tea are actually pretty healthy for us.
Hmm.
So if you're somebody who gets palpitations from it, or the heart's racing, you don't feel good with it, then you should be cutting down. But otherwise, if you have like up to 4 cups a day of
Mhm.
caffeine, there's studies that have been linked to a decreased risk of diabetes. They're actually a natural appetite suppressant as well. And there's even benefit shown for diabetes prevention if you're drinking decaf. So it could be something to do with the antioxidants in coffee and
Mhm.
tea.
Mhm.
There are effects on the gut microbiome as well, which we'll talk about. I want to touch on that later.
Mhm.
But, as far as coffee and tea, it's the additives that you just mentioned. So when you're adding milk, when you're adding sugar, there's that sugar again, right? So milk and sugar are adding more sugar to your day. And so
Gotcha.
that's a hidden place that a lot of times people are getting a lot of added sugar. So I would say that if you want to drink coffee or drink tea, to try to cut down on how much of
Mhm.
that of the milk and sugar that you're adding.
Mhm.
Maybe trying to switch to occasional black coffee or black
Gotcha.
tea, or maybe just switch to like a herbal tea for one or
Mhm.
two of those servings if you feel like you can't have tea without coffee. I mean, without the
The
milk in
milk.
it,
Okay.
because sometimes that is something that I commonly hear. And then the other thing is, if it's affecting your sleep, a lot of people, we haven't talked about sleep yet, but for a lot of people at this time, they're not sleeping well. Some of that
Mhm.
is the stress. If you're drinking caffeine late in the day, that's going to keep you up at night. So that's something else to keep in mind, maybe to limiting your caffeine, past 2 o'clock or so. But of
Gotcha.
course, a lot of us like our evening coffee or evening tea. But you have to see how you feel. So if it's keeping you up, maybe switching to that afternoon one to decaf could be a good option. But maybe that's surprising, but actually, coffee and tea are beneficial to our health overall.
Well, that is a good news in this conversation.
Without the added sugar and milk.
Yeah, without the added sugar and milk. So we are talking about milk. Let me ask you one follow-up question before I go. So friends, feel free to ask your questions, share your thoughts, best practices you follow. We'll be happy to share with our audience. Feel free to comment in both in Facebook and YouTube. So regarding milk, I have a question. Our body need calcium, and I know that more than a male, female need more calcium. That is a theory. I'm not a subject expert on this. So can you answer a little bit on whether the milk is required for our human body? What is your perspective on that?
Milk is a loaded question. People are very passionate about drinking milk, and the people who don't are very passionate about avoiding it, right? So, one thing is that most people are lactose intolerant,
Hmm.
meaning that actually, when they drink straight milk, they have upset stomach and bloating and abdominal distension and gas. And that's because that as
Hmm.
we evolved, and especially in the South Asian community, most of us can't actually digest lactose anymore, which is the sugar that's present in milk. Maybe from an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense because we drank our mother's milk, and then were we meant to drink a cow's milk that's meant for its baby? I don't know, maybe not. But I can understand that, if someone's choosing to drink milk and if it doesn't upset their stomach, that's fine. But actually, there are other sources of calcium that we can turn to. And one of the sources that people forget about is the leafy green vegetables actually have calcium. And even foods like tofu are very high in calcium. So, we have other things that we can turn to get calcium, and we don't have to have dairy. But, if one is choosing to have dairy, that's fine. Um, like I said, straight milk, we have to just watch the serving sizes because it has natural sugar in it, even if we're not
Gotcha.
adding anything in. But foods like yogurt are a good
Mm-hmm.
option because you're going to get the probiotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are those healthy bacteria that are in the cultured yogurt. So, that's a great option. Greek yogurt is actually very high in protein as well. I always recommend to do the unsweetened kind.
Mm-hmm.
When you do your food label reading lesson, you'll see that yogurts and Greek yogurt, they're notorious for adding tons of added sugar because, we're like, oh, we want that strawberry flavor. Well, maybe have plain Greek yogurt and add your own fresh strawberries to it. That's a better option.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
And during your answer, you told that we have not spoken about the sleep yet. So can you please help us to understand, importance of sleeping and the question about nap? Can we take a nap in the afternoon? So help us to understand about our sleeping habits and how we can stay. What is the best practices?
Yeah, so sleep is so important. And for anybody who's gone through sleep deprivation or jet lag, you know how miserable you feel when things get
Mm-hmm.
off with sleep. So, sleep is not only essential for proper functioning and mental well being, but also for your metabolism. So, we find that in people who have, say, day where they're sleeping in the day and working at night, where they have disruption of their circadian rhythm, where we're meant to sleep at night, right? So when that becomes disrupted or there's constant lack of sleep, 7 hours is the optimal number that you should be aiming for. And observational data tells us that people who sleep less than 6 hours or more than 9 hours actually have a higher BMI or have higher
Wow.
body mass index. So one of the best things you can do for your metabolism and for your weight is to get enough sleep. So 7 hours is the golden number, 7 to 8 hours. And as far as optimizing sleep, there's a lot of different things that go into it. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, we just talked about caffeine. If you are someone who's having trouble, then cutting off caffeine around 2 p.m. or so is recommended. Other things are to avoid being on your phone or your computer before bedtime. That's a hard one because most of us are on Facebook and Instagram and doing things like that there. But what you can do is actually turn the night shift mode on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a setting which dims the light. You can get eyeglasses that block the blue light. The idea is that you want your body and your brain to know, okay, this is sleep time coming up, right? So around 9 or 10 o'clock, you need to be winding down and making things calm. And if you're going to be on screens, minimizing the light going in your eyes, because that helps to enhance that release of the sleep hormone called melatonin, which helps us
Mm-hmm.
sleep. And other things are, for a lot of people, exercising at night can interfere with their sleep. So if you're one of those people, then switch your exercise to morning time is better. And maybe have some kind of sleep routine. We do that when we train our children to sleep when they're babies.
Mm-hmm.
Like we give them a routine. We give them a bath and we put them in their crib. Maybe we sing a lullaby. All those things you can do too, right? Things that wind you down. Maybe, read a book or do a guided meditation. There's apps like Calm and Headspace. These are guided meditation apps that I recommend to people
Mm-hmm.
that can
Mm-hmm.
help to wind you down. Maybe you want to meditate or you do your prayers, whatever it is. But if you start to build that routine and you do it every night, sometimes people say, well, I did everything, it didn't work, but you only did it twice, So consistently do that and you will slowly improve your sleep, and then your brain knows, okay, sleep is coming, and then, try to ride the wave when you get sleepy. Don't try to go do something else when you're feeling sleepy.
Gotcha. Gotcha. While answering it, you touched one point lightly, but I would like to get deep into it. Social media and smartphone.
Yeah.
Do you have any data or anything to share about, how social media is impacting our human life? I'm not sure it is impacting positively. It's giving a lot of information, and it's giving a lot of unverified information, as per I know. But what is, from your perspective, from health perspective, how the social media is impacting humankind?
That's a great question and a very kind of broad one. So I think that, there's positives and negatives to everything, right? The fact that you and I met was thanks to social media.
Correct.
So there's a lot of positives that come from it. I feel like I've been able to share educational content that I think is really important for people to know. But you're right, there's a lot of information there, and it's very hard to sift through what is fact and what is fiction. And one of the things I would say is that don't just believe everything you read, and look at the source, look at the credentials of the source. And with the COVID pandemic, I have seen a lot of misinformation. There were posts going around about hold the hot water in your throat and it'll prevent you from getting sick, or garlic. There were all sorts of things going around. And when we start believing a lot of things just because our friend sent it to us and we believe our friend, but they also got it from somewhere, right? So
Yes.
Verify your source, and look who is saying it and what are their credentials. That's number one. Number two, I think being cognizant of how much time you're spending on it, because it's like a hole that you can just go down. And we as adults fall for that, but so do our children. And that constant, like rabbit hole, like, okay, I clicked on this and then the next and the next, and you could just lose hours of your time. There are studies being done on, especially on children, and online bullying happens. Social media can be a friendly space, but it can also be a very hostile space. And we can also start to form very unrealistic expectations of what our life should be. When we see people's curated Facebook or Instagram posts about how perfect their life is, oh, here was my last vacation, or here's my meal, or here. Nobody's posting the bad stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can get a very false perception of what their life is and feel very alone. There's studies that show there's increased levels of depression linked to using social media. So it's something we have to use smartly. I think just like anything, it's a tool. It can be a tool for connection, for education, for collaboration, for staying in touch with family and friends. Of course, they're storing all our data, but that's a different story to sell us things. But I think that you should set limits. And one of the things that you can do, you were mentioning about children, is there are settings on there that you can set for yourself to limit the time that you spend on different apps. And that might be a good way to become aware of it.
Gotcha. And also, one of the practice what we can do is, as a friends, as a parents, we can have a casual conversation with kids. Hey, what did you saw in Instagram, and what you saw in the social activities, what you saw in YouTube. We can have a constant conversation. That is very, very important. And I'm sure by watching what others are doing, it increases our anxiety, our curiosity, and also it giving us the peer pressure, right? So, do you have any data to share with our members and friends? When you compare yourself with others by watching social media, this is X number of pressure is going up. Do you have any data to share, Doctor?
So I'm not sure about objective data like studies on that, because that's a little bit outside of kind of my area. But I will say that I find that when they say that you're the product of the 5 people who you spend the most time with, I think the same thing is true for social media. You can create a very good collaborative space, or you cannot. And so I would say that, if there's check in with how you feel when you look at people's stuff. And if it's creating anxiety, or if you're feeling like less than, or that peer pressure, especially with children, I would say, maybe talk to them about unfollowing that person. Like, you don't need to see every single thing that they post if they're creating negative feelings in yourself. And then the thing is you choose who you follow. So, like, when you comment or like something, then the algorithms of those social media platforms, they serve you more of it, right?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So what you can do, and I kind of stumbled on this with my Instagram. I've actually met a community of doctors, and especially women doctors, who are really helping each other and boosting each other. And so I think, especially for children, like, it's very essential to have that conversation. How do you feel about whatever you're seeing? And, perhaps having them follow different kind of educational or inspiring people, people that they can learn from. So it's not just like a who's wearing this or who has the most expensive that. It's very easy to fall into that, and because there is more to it, but it is real life. Sometimes we think social media is just kind of, it's not real, but it's actually real.
Yeah,
Those are real
trust me.
people.
Trust me, my business is on social media, so
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of plus and minus about that, and that is the reason why I wanted to. When I say I don't know how people will accept it, so when you say people may accept it, that is the reason why I
Okay.
asked this question for you. And so we are 40 minutes or so. So let us if you want to give a final 5 minutes or 2 minutes, the final tips for our people before we end the show, what you like to share to our people. I know that this is going to continue for a few months or probably end of this year, and just I read it in an article that we are optimistic that the middle of next year we may have a Vaseline, but nobody knows that is a fact or not. That is the best scenario. So it's going to be there. At least we need to be mentally prepared, like how we live for next 12 months at least. So staying healthy. So please share your thoughts to our members. And members, this show is one of the series to raise the funds for our front runners. So Metropolis Tamil Sangam is rising. You can go to our website, dfwmts.org. You will have this link, and it is a GoFund link. Feel free to support our frontliner. That is very, very important for us to show our support. Please support the good cause. And next week we are planning to give the first distribution, and following week the balance distribution. So if you're even planning to do $10, $20, this is the time for you to act. So please support. So Dr. Mittal, over to you.
Thank you. Well, I want to commend you on that, and I thank you so much for doing that for the people on the front lines, because they're making sacrifices that a lot of us are not having to make by being vulnerable and working in the hospital. And so I thank you for your efforts on doing that. I think that what we need to do is understand that we are strong. And as a community, as a nation, as a world, we are going to get through this. And so taking things day by day is always a good way to look at things, because none of us can control what happens in the future. And so take things day by day, do the best that you can for yourself every day, and then that will add up. Like I said, we touched on all these different components of health. One of the things that you can do to protect yourself is to stay healthy, right? So we know we're finding out that carrying excess body weight, having obesity, having heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, these are actually risk factors for getting coronavirus or even having complications from it. So, focus on that health. Focus on making day-to-day small changes that are sustainable. And don't ignore your emotional and mental health, because in the end, that is really what allows you to make the best decisions for your health and for your family, and all these decisions that we make throughout the day, whether what we're eating, how we're moving, whether we're stressed or if we're doing something about it, they're all interconnected, right? And what connects them is your mindset. And so that's really important to just, have that understanding with yourself and understanding with your family. Like, look, we're all going to get through this. It's a hard time. But we can do it. It's just, we're gonna. It's just a new normal for now. Is kind of the best way that I can say, and make the best decisions you can for yourself, so that you can stay healthy, and then hopefully the vaccine and all of that will be following, and things will improve.
Awesome, Dr. Mittal. Thank you so much. And I'm sure at least 200, 300 people must have seen this video, and probably thousands will see. So dear friends, if you want to comment about your experience, feel free to so even after the show, others can read it. Let us all come together, share our experience, positive and also negative. Whatever it is, let us share, let us help each other. And don't forget to call your friends you never spoke for years. I think that is the best thing which I did, and that gives me a lot of encouragements, a lot of fresh memories, and do a lot of exercise, as doctor said. Doctor, on behalf of Metroplus Tamil Sangam, I would like to thank you for spending your time, coming and sharing to our members. So thank you so much, and wish you good luck. And dear members, I've shared all the details about Dr. Mittal in this video description. Now feel free to reach her if you have any questions. And so thank you so much, Dr. Mittal.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out. And yes, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My website is radianthealthdallas.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Richa Mittal, MD. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, MTS members. And I will meet you in next session also. Thank you so much.
Thank you.